Okay, so we've all heard of Ozempic Face, but what is it really? It's this gaunt, kind of sickly, hollow look in the face, like this. But it doesn't just stop at the face. You can also notice Ozempic Face in the body, like this. As you can see, I have actually experienced this myself without the use of Ozempic. So this is part 2 to my original video, The Psychology of Losing Too Much Weight. It's not just about looking skinny. It is rapid fat and muscle loss at the same time. And it leaves this frail and sickly appearance. So you might think that someone who is experiencing this is actually experiencing some sort of sickness. That's a question that I got a lot when I was going through this myself. If you think about it, people who have advanced diseases tend to have this look. They start to look kind of frail. They get this gaunt look in their face. Or even if you think about elderly people, what do you typically think of? You kind of think of someone who is frail, they don't have a lot of muscle. How do they end up in those positions? How do elderly people tend to be the ones who have so much muscle loss? Well, they're not using their muscles, right? So a lot of inactivity, a lot of times when people get older, they start to lose their appetite. So a combination of inactivity and also not eating enough food is how we get here. This is literally the same mechanism that is drawing the issue with GLP-1s. Now, in my last video, I talked about how I really overdid it with cardio, how I was under eating, and I called that video The Psychology of Losing Too Much Weight, and I wish I had called it The Psychology of Losing Too Much Muscle, because so many people got caught up in the fact that, sure, my BMI was healthy, which BMI is a trash indicator anyway, okay? Like, I'll do another video on BMI, but so many people were so caught up in, well, the BMI was fine and your height and weight was fine, and I've been that height and weight before. Okay, let's look at the muscle composition though. There's nothing from these videos where you can look at this and tell me this looks completely and normally healthy. I wasn't competing in a show. I wasn't training for anything in particular. I was just doing this just to get to a number and a size. At that time, I truly thought that I was going to get down to this size 00 and that I was going to stay there forever. That was the ultimate goal. You need to understand that you can 100% have a healthy BMI and still have poor muscle tone. This is such an important distinction. BMI is not considering your muscle at all. This is why oftentimes a lot of people who tend to carry more muscle, athletes especially, will come up as overweight or even obese on the BMI model, which is why I do not like relying on it. It is so important to consider yourself holistically and not just by one single factor, aka the number on the scale. Now, here's what I was doing back in the day that ended up leading to this gaunt look. Number one was overkilling and only doing cardio. I purposefully only did cardio, and sometimes I would do it very intensely. Next, I was not eating. I was not eating the way that I needed to be eating to support the level of activity that I was doing. So my calorie number may have matched that of someone who was sedentary, but I was incredibly active and really needed to be eating more. I avoided carbs during that time like the plague. I did not want to see rice. I did not want to see potatoes, none of that kind of stuff. I did not want to have any carbs at all. And the big one was that I was afraid to lift weights. If you recall from part 1, I had already lost my weight and developed muscle and was happy with my physique, or I thought I was, until I started pushing myself to get lower and lower and lower on the scale. And in order to do that, I purposely stopped lifting weights so that I could see the number on the scale go down, not really realizing that that was going to get me to a size 00, but I was going to absolutely not like what that looked and felt like. Does any of this sound familiar? Now, on paper, again, I was healthy. My BMI was healthy. My scale weight matched the goal number that I had in my mind. So I had arrived, right? Absolutely wrong. In reality, people were asking me in my real everyday life if I was okay. People were asking my friends whether or not something was wrong with me. They thought that I was sick. I even passed out while doing excessive cardio. It is all in part 1. I had in effect created my own version of Ozempic Face before it had a name. So why is this happening now with GLP-1s? Well, for one, people are losing weight too fast. They're seeing that number go down on the scale. They're getting really excited about that number going down the scale, and they do things to make that number on the scale go down quicker. But that number going down is your loss of not just fat, but also muscle. Then, of course, people are not lifting weights for the same reason that I had avoided it. There's this fear of I'm going to get bulky, or there's this fear of I know if I start to lift these weights that's going to impact the scale. And right now, I just want to see the scale go down. So there are some people who are aware of, hey, maybe I should be lifting weights, but I mentally can't deal with seeing the scale not go down as fast as I feel that it should be, or I'm willing to wait. And then along those same lines, they're only walking, only doing cardio. They're completely swearing off doing any form of resistance training at all. And then you have people who are severely under eating. I am watching people actively support and enable eating disorders by using the GLP-1, meaning people who have perhaps, had a desire to be able to just not eat, aka anorexia, and having that GLP-1 be there and that enabling that at least to a certain extent. This is happening way more commonly than you would even think. In many cases, if somebody is using a GLP-1, that likely means they have tried everything. There are even some people who have had weight loss surgery, regained their weight, and now they're trying the GLP-1 again. So these are people who have tried things and they haven't seen success. And now they start to see that success, or what they deem as success, on the scale, and they start to see numbers that they haven't seen since college, or numbers that they haven't seen since high school. And they're so driven by that number that they're not thinking about the long-term effects, because there are long-term effects to things like this. It's not just about your looks. You can actually worsen your health. So when you're losing weight this quickly, when you have the poor habits that I mentioned before, you are wreaking havoc on your metabolism, and you're making it a lot harder for you to be able to lose weight in the future. So if you're on a GLP-1 and that GLP-1 is helping to suppress your appetite in a way, if you take it way too far, and instead of, let's say you had a calorie goal of 1,700 calories, but your GLP-1 is suppressing your appetite, and so you can push yourself to only have 1,000 calories, and you can see that number on the scale go down a lot quicker, that doesn't mean you should. Because what happens if you have to get off of the GLP-1 for any reason? And I've seen this happen to people. I'm talking about medical reasons why you have to get off the GLP-1. I'm talking about availability issues, which used to be, a big deal when they were having issues with stock. I have seen people where they're on the GLP-1, but they're not building the habits, and they're not doing this from a mindset standpoint. So they get to this point where they no longer can have the medication for whatever reason. There are so many reasons that you wouldn't even think of. And then the weight regain is just super fast. Now, I want to stress that even if you're not using a GLP-1, but you're someone who maybe just has those habits like I did, you're also wreaking havoc on your metabolism. I did not talk about this in part 1, but I spent a substantial amount of time having to regain my weight. And I didn't just regain to where I wanted to be. I ended up having to gain more than I would have liked back in order to get my metabolism to where I wanted it to be, in order to be able to now maintain being able to eat 2,500, even 3,000 calories with my current activity level. This is something that would not have been possible had I stuck to those very low calories that I was eating. My body would have adapted, and eating anything over that amount would have just made me completely blow up. This, to me, is the ideal place where you want to get to, where you can eat a substantial amount of food. You're not tracking your food. You're able to eat intuitively, enjoy life, have the things that you want to have. Isn't this the end goal? I can't imagine that the end goal is to be restricted for so long, forever. And I know that's not the end goal for most people. I just think that's kind of the cycle, and that's what tends to happen. The other thing is your strength and your energy declining. Just being able to do things like carry your groceries up the stairs, or playing outside with your kids or grandkids and having energy for that. These are things that you're not going to have if you are not giving yourself and fueling yourself with the necessary food, with the necessary nutrients. You're not going to have that energy. You're not going to feel vibrant. You know what I mean? If you are not fueling yourself properly. And let's talk about age. None of us are getting younger. As we age, especially after the age of 30 or 35, we start to lose muscle mass. It is so important to get muscle on you. You do not want to be frail. And I want to be clear when I say this too, because I think a lot of times people get caught up in the weight or they get caught up in the use of the word skinny. But this can also happen with what we call skinny fat, right? Where maybe you're not super thin, but you just don't have a lot of muscle and you're just not strong. You just don't feel that strength. You may not be able to stand on your feet for long periods of time without your back aching. These are things that impact your quality of life, especially as you get older. And I always leave this message somewhere when I'm talking about this topic for Black women, but we have one of the highest incidences of hip replacement. And something that can help to prevent that is making sure that we have muscle on our bodies as we age. So that is for everyone, but in particular for Black women, because we do have that higher incidence. I need you to know that you can lose weight and actually become more unhealthy. I always say that I felt way more unhealthy and was way more unhealthy as a size 00 than I was when I was a size 22 or even 24. If you are finding yourself in this situation and you want to prevent getting to a point where you have worked all your muscle off, or maybe you have already gotten to that point and you are just having a moment where you're like, okay, I'm ready to do something about this. I can admit that this was not the goal. This is not where I wanted to end up, and I'm not happy with this, and I want to feel better in my body. Here is what you need to do. First, you must prioritize protein every single day. I have to tell you all from my experience in working with women over the years, I have worked with many women who have had weight loss surgery. I have worked with many women who have done things like GLP-1s, anything along those lines. And one of the most common issues that they have, especially when the amount of food that you're able to eat is restricted. So think about having weight loss surgery, right? That stomach size is restricted. So you physically cannot eat a lot of food, right? A large volume of food right after you have that surgery, although the stomach does expand and you get to a point where you can eat a lot of food. And that's where you see some people who have weight loss surgery regaining their weight. And then guess what they do? Or guess what doctors are even recommending? That they get on a GLP-1, right? Instead of having another invasive surgery. Well, when they get on the GLP-1, that's once again restricting the amount that they're able to eat. What I find is people who have unresolved issues with food will fill up whatever they can eat with snacks. They will eat popcorn and chips and candy and things that are going to be very easy to process in the body. Think about if you put a chip, a Lay's, what are the ones that come in the can? A Pringles chip in your mouth, right? Close your mouth. What happens? That chip just starts to dissolve. So as it goes through your digestive tract and all of that, it's taking up this little much of space. So you could eat a family-sized bag of chips and be fine. But it's much more difficult to eat steak and potatoes and a vegetable, right? Because you got to chew those things and those things take up volume. And so what I found is that people who have not resolved their relationship with food, because they're still chasing the ultra processed foods, they will waste the space that they have in their stomach with just straight up processed foods and never eat actually nutrient dense foods. Please, I encourage you to prioritize protein and make sure that you're eating protein at least with 2 of your meals, a minimum of 100 grams per day. Next, you want to lift weights 2 times a week for 30 to 60 minutes. They can be 2 full body days, meaning you're doing upper body and lower body in the same day, 30 to 60 minutes. Choose 4 to 8 main exercises and just get it knocked out a couple times a week. And if you're just starting, maybe you're not wanting to go to the gym, you can do body weight exercises at home. Don't overcomplicate this. Next, you want to make sure that you do not chase a number on the scale alone. You need to be measuring your progress in more ways. Take pictures, find a photo day outfit, wear something where you can really see the areas that you want to work on. Do not wear things where you can't see the changes that you want to make. Now, there's a couple ways to do this. One way is to wear a sports bra, shorts, take a picture from the front, side, and back. Okay. Another way is to find something, maybe some jeans, something that's not stretchy, right? Something preferably that has like a zipper or buttons. And you're going to aim for your goal to be to fit into that. A lot of us women, we have something in our closet that we can't quite fit, can't quite zip up. This is what you want to find. And you want to put that on. I had a client one time, she had these jeans she wanted to get into. And she started with those jeans on her thighs. Like they wouldn't even come up, right? That's where we started. Take the picture like that. Yes, front, side, and back. And then when you get ready to take pictures again in 2 weeks, in 4 weeks, you take that picture again and show where your jeans are now. And as you progress, you start to see how your body is changing and you're not solely relying on the scale. Instead of focusing on being skinny or focusing on getting to a particular goal weight, focus on feeling good in your body. You want to feel good and confident and strong and like you can actually get things accomplished. You don't want to feel weak and tired and you don't want that. So focus on how you want to feel. Now, someone mentioned this in a comment in part 1, and I thought it was so good. So if you're the one who left this comment, please say hi in the comment section. But they said to have an accountability partner to tell you when you're going too far. And I was like, I really like that. So someone that you trust, hey, I'm going on this weight loss journey. I really want to be accountable to not just lose so much weight and burn through my muscle. I want to be accountable to maintain my muscle. So will you tell me if I start to look gaunt or if it starts to look like I'm losing my muscle? I need you to let me know. Now, this person, okay, they cannot be another person who is weight obsessed. You need somebody a little bit, a higher level than you. They're a little bit further in their journey than you, or they're someone who you can trust, right? And you definitely don't want this to be a hater or a secret hater, okay? You don't want nobody setting you up for failure, fattening you up, telling you getting too skinny when they just really hating on you, okay? So make sure that you're choosing somebody that you really trust. And I appreciate whoever left that comment. I think it's a fantastic tip. And I just want to say, I think it's a fantastic tip because it gives the person who you are trusting, it gives them the green light to give you feedback. And first of all, if you don't have someone in your life that you can count on like that, we need a whole new video about friendship, right? But just having somebody in friendship, in relationship, somebody who you can trust to tell you something like that is incredibly important. So if you're on a GLP-1 or any of these poor habits sound familiar, we need to chat. Let's talk. I am offering health mapping sessions through the end of the year. They are 75 to 90-minute sessions where we go over everything that you're currently doing, what you've done in the past, and we create a plan for you to move forward. So if you're interested, the link is going to be down in the description. Thank you for watching today's video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm too hyped because I remember to say that. I have not said it since I've been back on YouTube, if you haven't noticed. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and especially share. Sharing helps so much. You would not even believe it. So if you're in weight loss groups, or if you and your homegirl were just talking about this the other day, share this video. You see I'm back on YouTube and I'm consistent. Okay? Bye.